Hello and welcome to TNWKS, the Now We Know show, the show where we discuss a topic of interest and by the end we will have learnt something new and hopefully you will too. I'm Zach.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Buzz. And guess what, guys? It's Shocktober!
Shocktober!
Shocking.
Yes, which means we're heading up to Halloween.
Oh yes.
And
Spooky
we've got
season.
a special guest in with us today. Well, actually,
It's nice. Thank you for having me.
it's Jack.
I'm a big fan of the show. Yeah.
He's our co-presenter. Of course, he's one of the team, but he's also our guest.
I've nominated myself as a super fan.
We did Superfans on the last episode, but because it's Shocktober, we're coming straight in there with something Halloween-y.
Spooky.
And Jack, you kind of kicked this one off, didn't you? So
Yes.
what are we doing in this episode?
The Exorcist.
If you enjoy the Now We Know show podcast, support Zak Wylde Productions on Patreon or join our members on YouTube for early access, ad-free content and exclusive episodes. So before we begin with our Superfan episode on The Exorcist, it's time for, you guessed it,
Weird and Wonderful! And it's me again.
You again?
Again.
Wow.
I've been searching the depths of
He is the
stories.
the weird and wonderful king.
And I thought I'd try and find something, because it's Shocktober, that's something kind of like, let's start the Halloween season with something Halloween-y. And I found a story this week that's just come out, which is very Halloween-y.
Oh, that's good.
And more, maybe less weird, but more wonderful for those people who love celebrating Halloween. And
Okay, we've had a lot of weird stories, so it's nice to have something wonderful.
It qualifies. It
So
qualifies.
this
We'll,
week-
we'll allow.
Okay. Here we go. Halloween pumpkins will be bigger than normal due to the wet summer.
Oh,
Okay, this is
Okay.
very wonderful news for
It is.
those people who love to celebrate Halloween. A wet July and August after a hot June created the perfect conditions for growing larger than average traditional pumpkins, farmers say. There you go.
More space for carving.
Exactly. Summer may have been a bit of a washout, but pumpkins are thriving thanks to all the rain. This Halloween, the main varieties of pumpkins are all expected to be larger than normal.
ooh,
There you
kaiju
go.
pumpkins.
Exactly.
Attack of the Killer Pumpkins.
The wet,
I'd watch that.
the wet weather in July and August was perfect for growing pumpkins, according to Steve Whitworth of Oakley Farms. He added, "We had a perfectly good growing season for the pumpkins this summer with a really hot June, which really helped the plants along. The rainy July and August may not have been great for sun lovers or barbecue fans, but from a growing point of view, for pumpkins, it was perfect." There we go.
Well, that's good.
So for any pumpkin carvers out there listening,
Yeah, you're in for
you're in for a good Halloween.
a good one.
Oh,
Halloween.
that actually reminds me of the original Halloween movie, where when they were filming that, there was a pumpkin shortage. So they only had 2 pumpkins to film the entire film with, one of which had to be destroyed when a kid fell on it.
Oh, yeah. Well, don't say that. A friend of mine who lives in the States, do you remember the band? I don't know if they're still about. The Smashing Pumpkins still about? You've heard the Smashing Pumpkins, haven't you?
No.
No, can't
Oh.
say that I have.
He said when they became a thing, it ruined Halloween.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
everybody put their pumpkins out, and then the local youths would come round and literally smash all the pumpkins
They do that anyway.
because it was Smashing Pumpkins.
And this is a British band, and they're smashing, as in they're fantastic pumpkins,
Fantastic. But
smashing pumpkins.
So I'm going to ask, since that we're going to have an absolutely fantastic crop of Halloween pumpkins this year, boys. Are you pumpkin carvers? Have you carved pumpkins?
I'll tell you what, I haven't carved a pumpkin in a good while.
Last one I did was a Star Wars one, which I was quite proud of.
Oh yes, was that one that because back in the day it was traditional to do your Halloween type ones,
Yeah.
with the teeth or whatever. Yeah. But then in later years, as people have been kind of inscribing them in great detail.
Yeah,
without
I've seen some of those really-
without cutting all the way through,
Really
necessarily.
cool ones.
And then you get that
Yeah.
kind of 3D effect.
So what I did was shave kind of the first layer off.
You're shaving your pumpkin.
I shaved my pumpkin.
Is that euphemism?
I kind of shaved the initial layer off, so it's more of a glow.
That's it. So you get the light.
And I left the silhouettes of Anakin and Obi-Wan, and then cut all the way through on the lightsabers. So the lightsabers are the brightest part.
Excellent.
And
That
then
sounds fantastic. I got to ask you
thinner
this.
part.
Have you got a picture?
Yeah, somewhere.
I've got to ask you this. What the hell's that got to do with Halloween?
It's a pumpkin.
The pumpkin is the connection to Halloween.
Yeah,
It's a scary
I've
scene.
I've got to say Halloween, and we're not doing Halloween one today, but Halloween is a kind of an odd one for that, because since Halloween is a European tradition that went over with the Pilgrim Fathers and everything, seems a bit odd, but with everybody, because they were Christian, everybody went over there to America and then started the American development of Halloween, and it's come back this way now. And now, of course, you've commented on it before, where Halloween, when I was a kid, was all about horror monsters and werewolves and witches and vampires and things like that, and Frankenstein's monster. But now it's all, let's dress up as a spaceman and a nurse and
A cat.
A fairy. That's a classic American one.
It's all kind of a bit odd, really, but there you go. Anyway, on with the show. That's the weird and wonderful story.
So
Big pumpkins.
we are talking about The Exorcist. Now, Jack, this is your field of expertise on this one, isn't it?
It would seem so. That is why I'm here today.
You are designated superfan.
So we're doing Superfan, primarily Exorcist Superfan,
yeah.
not on the wider branch of horror Superfan.
I think we'll keep it, yeah.
Keep it.
I'm wearing the Exorcist t-shirt,
Yeah,
so we have
he
to
is.
kind of... And I'm surrounded at the moment
I made
by...
the mistake of saying, Jack, you're not wearing a Warner Brothers t-shirt this week.
Oh, that would have been good.
But then he said, but it is a Warner Brothers
It's a
movie.
Warner Brothers
I
movie.
should have worn my Freddy Krueger jumper. But it's a bit warm.
A bit warm in here.
There's also nothing to do with Exorcist.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I do have a quiz later. Who knows?
Okay, who
Ooh,
knows?
okay.
Right, okay, so Exorcist.
Yes.
The year is... When was the Exorcist book?
The book was written in 1971,
And that was by...
William Peter Blatty,
Blatty.
and I have a copy of it.
So actually,
Right,
that wasn't long. It didn't take long before the book became the film, because
Yes.
the film, if I'm not mistaken, was first aired in 73.
1973
So
was the
from
film.
71 to 73.
Wow.
So quick turnaround,
That's
yeah.
a really
yeah.
quick turn.
Wow, I didn't think it was that early.
I didn't think
Yes.
I think it was shown in the UK 74.
Yes, I think there was a slight delay. Because I think, am I right in saying back then it would have been like the film reel would have travelled around? There wouldn't have been like multiple copies. It would have been like...
That's it.
It's not like a nationwide release. It's more of like it comes to your...
the cinemas back in those days had to wait until it actually arrived.
Yeah,
in,
yeah. So by the time it got over here, it was obviously a year later or whatever. So, the sort of thing that sparked this idea for this episode was that me and Zach actually recently went to see a 50th anniversary screening in Stevenage Cineworld
That
of
was
The
actually
Exorcist.
really good.
Yes,
I've got to
yeah.
ask. Obviously, you've seen The Exorcist prior to going there.
A few times, you
What
could say.
about- What about you,
I have
Zach?
only seen, prior to the screening, I've seen bits and bobs. Like probably the iconic scenes
So this was the most sort of complete version that you've seen.
that
Okay.
I've ever seen, yes.
Right.
And I was really good. Really
Yes.
good. I really enjoyed it.
I know your interest has peaked since that screening, which is really cool. So that kind of sparked the idea of me sort of talking about it. This is probably I will say early in this podcast that this is probably my favourite horror film of all time.
Wow.
Bold claim.
It's a bold claim.
And one of the reasons for that is that when I was very young, I did catch a part of this film while my sister was watching it, who's 6 years older than me. So she was like more intrigued in watching it. She was that little bit older. So a lot of horror films I saw secondhand from her or just caught on the TV while she was watching them. And it really, really terrified me.
That's good.
Being sort of, I must have been about 7 or 8, so
Okay.
still pretty young.
That's young to see The Exorcist.
Yes, and my sister was like, "Oh, it's really funny. It's an
It's
old,
really
it's,
funny.
it's an old film. It's not that scary." And I'm thinking,
I've got to disagree on that. It's an old film bit with The Exorcist.
I mean, this is I'm quoting like
Yeah. I know, but, I mean, for those familiar with it or for those not familiar with it, a lot of movies do look dated. But although the clothes that people are wearing are very 70s, I actually feel that the effects and everything hold up today.
They do.
Yes.
They do.
Yeah.
It looked really, really crisp on that screen.
Yeah.
Because you can usually, with old 1973 we're talking, you'd expect it to look a bit ropey.
I mean, a lot of the
With the
vast
effects.
majority of film, especially horror films from that time, even things like sci-fi from that era, can look very
Very
ropey. Yeah.
Especially when the original film footage has been
Remastered.
Yeah, and restored. Yeah.
You know,
Speaking
because
of, was The Exorcist that we actually saw on the screening, Was that remastered at all?
Okay, we're jumping ahead.
Okay, sorry.
One thing at a time.
Let the superfan take the lead.
So yeah, I saw this very young,
Mm-hmm.
parts of it. I only probably saw the last maybe 20 minutes, but I
Okay.
never saw the very end,
Okay.
which we'll get to about the very end later on.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
But when you're a child, and I know you may be able to relate to this, when you see something when you're a kid, it's sort of fleetingly, you kind of fill in the rest in your imagination.
Mm.
And when it's something like this subject and it's quite a scary film with scary imagery, that sort of played on my mind for a long time. I've actually got the DVD I would have watched back in the day. This is a very old DVD.
Oh,
This is
from
the,
the archive.
I love the fact that you're talking this very old DVD, and there's me thinking, I remember when that came out on VHS.
Well, for perspective, we watched the 50th anniversary at the cinema the other day. This DVD is the 25th anniversary.
Yep.
Wow. Oh no.
Exactly. So
Well,
you could say it's quite an old DVD.
Well, I've got to also point out. I'm not jumping ahead if you wanted to mention this, Jack, but The Exorcist, when it came out in the UK, you could see it at the cinemas, and for a very small period of time, I think in the early 80s, when VHS first started,
Yeah.
you could get it on VHS, and then it was banned.
Yes, until about 19...
Oh, I didn't know
I think
this.
it was it was so. I think from about 1982, 84, around that period, you could actually get it on VHS. Then it was banned, and you could not buy The Exorcist for home entertainment until I think 1998 or 1999.
Damn, that's when I was born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So to this
Yeah.
old DVD.
Well, this DVD is 25 years old, so this might have been
That's
one
as
of
old as me.
exactly. It might have been one of the first sort
One of the
releases.
first ones that were
Yeah.
that was released.
So this DVD always sort of, when I was that age, even the poster sort of filled me with a bit of like fear, because obviously it was that film that I'd seen parts of and it really scared me. And as I say, it's sort of, I filled in the rest with my imagination.
I'm intrigued. What aspects of it scared you? Was it was it the possession,
Yes.
of that whole idea of the devil, etc., or was it partly because Linda Blair was obviously a 12-year-old girl playing the part, and that's a child?
Yeah, well, a large part of that is obviously the imagery. The makeup in this film is still incredible.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
still
yeah.
very sort of...
I literally only watched it a couple of days ago
Yeah.
on terrestrial TV.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
can confirm it's still as good on TV as it is at the cinema.
the makeup effects obviously on Linda Blair are amazing, and they're very iconic, and they've been sort of, I guess, parodied and redone many times.
I think even French and Saunders and people like that.
Yeah, Scary Movie, Repossessed. There's so many.
It reminded
examples.
me a lot of the kind of makeup and prosthetics from Evil Dead.
Yes, similar.
which I didn't think
I
of
would
until
say
recently.
The Evil Dead probably took a lot of inspiration from The Exorcist, as probably many movies did came after.
But as I say, I only saw the sort of last 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. So I had no sort of prior context to what was happening.
Right.
So I
literally, you've just come into a girl in a bedroom.
Yeah, exactly,
who's
yeah.
severely at this point possessed by a demon.
exactly. And speaking in like a very husky voice.
Yeah, in tone.
I'm not sure we can really quote it in this
That was
episode
actually
because it's
that was a
rather...
lady that did the voice.
It was, yes. She
was
drank numerous
She was
alcohol
I can't think of
and
her name,
smoked cigarettes and things.
but she was a very famous radio star.
Yes. She
and-
really damaged her voice to try and get the kind of raspiness.
So there was no modulation or anything
No,
on that.
she-
That
no,
was
no.
that
She-
was somebody.
She was a
Wow.
very famous radio star. I do apologise for not remembering her name. And I think one of those sort of small facts about the movie is initially she didn't want to be credited for it.
Interesting.
Yeah, she wasn't credited, I don't
No,
believe.
she wasn't credited originally.
Yeah.
In fact, you need to have a look on your
Mm.
on your case of your DVDs to see if she is. But later on, when she found that the movie had been so successful, then I think it was for fear of her taking out legal action against them for not crediting her,
Yeah.
they did end up crediting her. So she now, if you watch the credits of the movie, she will have a credit on it.
Yeah.
And originally, she didn't.
I believe
Factoid moment.
I believe a similar story is for the Pazuzu face. We're going to say Pazuzu.
Okay, Pazuzu.
For
So
the
who's
audience who
Pazuzu?
hasn't seen The Exorcist, I recommend you go and watch it before you listen to this podcast.
Who's Pazuzu?
Okay, we'll get to that. Anyway, the demon face that
demon
sort of
face.
subliminally pops up through a lot of the film is also a lady in makeup.
I thought that was a man.
Yeah, so a lot of people think it's a man.
Hang on a second. Is that
It's very.
creepy-
It flashes.
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
also have the model of Pazuzu, don't you? The statue.
There's a statue.
Because that appears right at the end as well, and it's like Reagan is like like this on the bed.
Yeah,
and it's
you
in
see the
background.
statue initially in the Iraq sequences at the beginning of the film,
Yeah.
and then later on by the bed.
Yep.
And Max von Sydow's character, Father Merrin, does pick up a sort of broken head of the Pazuzu statue as well.
Yeah, that's weird, because later on in the film, at the bottom of those steps, doesn't a character pick up the statue head?
Well,
And how does that get there?
well. Do you want to... Okay, so this is where my superfan comes out, because
Go
you're
on.
wrong.
What? Oh, okay.
It's not the statue head. It is a lump of clay that Reagan, obviously throughout the film, is seen modelling a lot of things. She models a tortoise. At one point, she models a bird for her mum, all using this clay. If you've seen the film, you'll know the scene of the desecration of the statue of Mary, Virgin Mary, which is clay. So that's
my God!
So this is how Kinderman, the detective,
Yeah.
puts two and two together. He finds the lump of clay at the bottom of the stairs where Burke has been killed, puts two and two together. She's been using the clay that's also the desecration of the statue of the Virgin Mary.
I did not... That is only just clicked for me.
Yes.
I was wondering why... I thought that was just random people who did that.
No. So it's not...
Wow.
So, yeah, so Reagan is obviously the one who's been desecrating the statue with the clay. And in the book, actually, as I've been reading the book recently, the scene kind of plays out slightly differently. Kinderman visits Chris MacNeil's, Ellen Burstein's character in the film, but in the book, Chris MacNeil, and runs his thumb across one of the statues and takes a piece of the plasticine under his thumbnail, and then uses that piece that he's taken, sends it off, and it gets confirmed as being the same clay that's used in the desecration of the statue. So it kind of plays out slightly differently in the book, but that's what that lump of thing is that he picks up.
Huh.
Some have also theorized that it's like a model of a dinosaur, because you can see like a lot of drawings of dinosaurs and things behind her.
And why would that be?
Well, it's just a model that she's made.
Okay.
It's not really important what the sort of shape of it is. And then others have said that it may be like a crude interpretation of the Pazuzu head, possibly.
Because that's what I thought it was. I
Yeah.
thought it was that head of that little statue at the beginning.
So it's a lump of clay, and that's how he sort of puts two and two together.
Oh, that's really cool.
So there we go. That's cleared that up.
Interesting fact, from Reagan's room, it would be absolutely impossible for the priest to actually go out the window and go down the staircase.
I mean, he does sort of fly out at an angle, but yeah, he must have...
The window is 40 feet away from the top of the staircase.
You got a good run.
So what they did was they had to
Build.
a false frontage on for the window shots.
Oh, yeah.
Outside.
So when you see the exterior of the house, that whole left side of the house has just
Isn't
been
real.
made up.
No way.
To make it to give it the perspective of how he managed to get down the stairs.
Just an added set, basically.
Wow, see,
Wow,
factoid.
Because without that part,
Coming
he would have
thick
had
and
to
fast
have,
today.
He would have had to fly out the window, hit the deck,
over the driveway.
roll 40 feet, and then go down the stairs.
I did kind of get that feeling that it would have been quite a way.
Yes.
Anyway, there we go.
It's really interesting.
So I can't remember what we were discussing beforehand.
Well, we were basically, you were telling us about your childhood experiences
yes,
initially seeing this.
Yeah. So another thing that did stick with me, your question from earlier, was that Pazuzu face, that makeup of sort of white face with the red eyes and the... I guess I don't even think you really see its teeth. Does it have sharp teeth? In my mind, I kind of fill in the gaps.
Because it's so brief and it flashes up, doesn't it?
It's supposed to be subliminal, and there are a few throughout the film. There are a few sort of subliminal flashes of the Pazuzu face, as well as I actually noticed one in the screening that I've not noticed before. Was when Chris MacNeil walks through the door into Reagan's room. There's a flash of the statue on the back of the door. And I didn't notice this. I've not noticed this at all. I've only seen a clip. When she leaves the room later on in the film, the statue is standing behind the door in real darkness, and you can only really see it if you sort of up the brightness of the actual footage.
Wow.
But there is a full statue standing behind the door, which I've never noticed before. So that's a kind of cool Easter egg.
I've got to say at this point for everybody listening, The Exorcist. Let's look at actually what it is. It's about the possession of a child, isn't it? It's
yes, that's the part.
For people that don't know what the actual plot line is.
Yeah, so it's interesting because that is sort of the main part of the film that people remember is the possession and the exorcism scene, whereas that probably only makes up sort of 25% of the film.
Yeah, it's kind of like the last bit, isn't it?
Those sort of iconic moments happen sort of towards the end of the film, whereas the beginning of the film is this sort of agonizing build-up,
gradual setup.
Yeah,
it is like quite I don't want to say chilled, but it's quite. I don't want to say slow.
Well,
Slow-ish.
yeah. So one of the things
It's that build-up, isn't it?
One of the things I love about this film is the pacing and the build-up.
Yes.
Because it's not afraid to show all of these like medical solutions to what's happening to Reagan.
Yes.
And she has so many sequences of scenes where she goes to the doctors and she gets treated, and they're saying
all the machinery going around her head and everything.
yeah, and they're saying that she has mental illness or possibly a brain tumor, and they throw all of these things at her mum, Chris, throughout the film, that it sort of builds up to this point where they have to resort to the exorcism. It's only like a very last resort.
I recall the mother, when she's the one who starts to call for an exorcism, but the priest.
So Father Karras is the one she consults.
He's still saying that they need so much evidence.
Yeah,
and what he at that point he's still saying that it's not, isn't he?
One of the lines I think that's quite important is when Chris is talking to Father Karras, and she says about doing an exorcism, and Father Karras says to her, "You probably know as much about possession as most priests," and that kind of makes you realise that this exorcism thing isn't like a common occurrence. It's very much a rare thing that's not happened for many years.
It's died out, hasn't it?
I've got to jump in here. The book itself is actually meant to be based on a true story.
It's based on a true story, yeah. I don't know too much about the actual real case, but I do know it's sort of...
was it in 1948 or somewhere around like that?
Yeah, something, yeah.
Maybe that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, well, it's a story that William Peter Blatty stumbled upon in like an article, and then sort of filled in the gaps and made the story up himself. And I think, I may be wrong, but I think he was kind of struggling with his own faith, and he was kind of trying to figure out what he believed at the time, which kind of comes across in the book, because there's a lot of this tug of war between like science and religion all the way through. Even in the film, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And I've got the book with me, and I've literally started reading it on Sunday, the day after the screening that we went to, and it's, as time of recording, a couple of days later, and I'm like basically just over halfway through already.
Wow.
I've
Impressive.
really, gone through this book.
You've tucked in.
I have. The thing I think this film does so much better than what modern sort of exorcism-based films do now is that sort of pacing, and it is a very much a last resort that the exorcism takes place. And even, like Buzz said, Father Karras is still trying to prove that there doesn't have to be an exorcism.
Yeah.
And it's like, with a modern exorcist film, or with just any sort of demon possession film, whatever you have nowadays, it's always the first resort. It's always like, this person's acting weird. Let's call an exorcist.
Well, nod and agree. Yes, it's an exorcism. It needs to be happening.
This has brought up another movie, later, an 80s movie. I'm sure it's an 80s movie, which kind of has the same kind of thing. They with what I'm saying, the medical testing and everything, prior to actually anybody believing that it is well, it's actually a poltergeist in that one, but it's not poltergeist. The movie is...
I think I know.
Oh,
is it the one with the woman?
Yeah, it's the one with the lady.
The Entity.
The Entity. That's it. I don't know if, Jack, if you've watched The Entity at all.
I know of it. I haven't.
But yeah, watch that one, because I think it doesn't reach the same level as the
depravity.
It's more like...
But it is worth...
She's being tormented by it.
She's being tormented by an entity.
Yeah.
Which you're led to believe is possibly her father, who is...
blimey, I can't remember.
I think it's meant to be her father, or she believes it's her father, who is... it comes back as a poltergeist
thing, yeah.
And but again, it was based on a true story.
Ooh.
You see, and so you check that one out, The Entity.
So one of the things that's quite interesting about the book, I should mention, is that obviously it was written by William Peter Blatty, who also did the screenplay for the Exorcist film, the original Exorcist movie. And obviously the time gap was very short.
Oh, yes.
So having him write the screenplay and then reading the book in hindsight, the book is literally the film. There isn't there's large portions of the book that are literally word for word how they are in the film, which I wasn't really expecting. I was expecting
a refreshing change.
Yeah. So it's very much like reading.
You hear so often these days that people have a book and it's a wonderful book and they really enjoy it, and then they go and change it to make the movie.
So far I've probably got like just under halfway to go.
So it would be a good example of, yes, you can make a movie from a book and keep it pretty much toe to toe.
This is probably the most faithful adaptation from like book to film that I've probably read, having seen
Didn't we have the same conversation with Lord of the Rings? that they had to cut a lot out
Right,
of the
that
books
is
because it's
a huge
huge undertaking.
Yeah.
That's a huge undertaking.
And having the screenplay written by the author, I think, really adds to the film as well, because he came from I think he came from like a comedy background as well, and he wanted to prove.
Wow.
He wanted to prove
Wow,
that
that is the story.
Yeah, he'd done a lot of comedy, but he wanted to prove that he could write something more serious.
I wonder if he appreciated the comedy.
He did good.
skits.
He did good.
Later on in years when people did comedy skits of it.
But I was surprised, with how much from the book actually makes it into the film. There's a few scenes. There's one in particular that sticks out from what I've read so far. And as I say, I should preface, I've got a little way to go. Where, if you remember in the film, where I can't remember whose character it is, but he comes in to Chris, Reagan's mother, and tells her that Burke has been found dead.
Oh yes, isn't that the like one of her helper people that lives in the house?
Yes, I think so, possibly. Or he comes to the door. He's one of her, because she's an actress.
It's the
It's one
same.
of her
It's the same
assistants.
guy who puts the rat traps out in the attic.
No, that's Carl.
Isn't it?
No,
Oh.
it's not him.
See, I'm not the super fan.
It's definitely not him. But anyway, she's told about Burke's death, and then the scene is cut by Reagan walking down the stairs backwards, spider walk, and then she sort of vomits a lot of blood, and it's quite a graphic scene.
Yeah, I remember that.
In the book, she's speaking to Sharon, who is Reagan's tutor, who's in the house, the younger girl.
Yeah.
Is that who she is?
Yes, and as she's speaking, she realizes that Reagan's next to her on all fours, licking her ankles.
Oh, okay.
In the book, which kind of took me by surprise. That's slightly different.
Yeah.
But then I found out that they did actually film that sequence, and you can actually watch that version of the sequence.
Really?
Yes, and I'm glad they cut it out, because it's
Do you know where you can watch it?
You probably YouTube it, I think, or it just doesn't work, because she's like crawling towards Sharon,
Yeah.
with her tongue flapping out in and out,
Oh.
and it's the film sort of sped up, so it almost looks really like comedic.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
It doesn't work at all, and I'm quite glad they replaced that with the spider walk
Well, there's a
scene.
lot of the tongue stuff, isn't there, in it? It's
Yeah.
like blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I found that
and the
fun.
pea soup. Yes,
Pea soup?
yeah.
That's the vomit.
That's
They
what they use, pea
basically used.
It was very green.
They used pea soup mixed with oatmeal.
Lovely.
And it's supposed to.
They tried lots of different soups. They found
They settled on that.
pea soup with oatmeal was the best one.
It was supposed to hit Jason Miller's character, Father Karras, in the chest, and the shot they got hit him square in the face.
And that shot is him
Yeah,
just not expecting it and not liking it.
and apparently he was very angry.
Oh, no.
So that's a real reaction in the film.
Wasn't that spider walk scene? Didn't you say it wasn't in one of the cuts of the film?
So it wasn't in the theatrical cut of the film,
Okay.
and the footage was lost,
Oh.
or at least part of it, I believe, was lost. And then in 2000, I believe, William Peter Blatty and William Friedkin, the director, decided to go back through the film and sort of add bits in, and sort of, I guess you could call it a director's cut, but it's kind of more of like a writer's cut, I guess, because there was a lot of tension between the two on what should be included and what shouldn't.
Interesting.
So how many? Sorry to interrupt. When you finish saying what you say,
Yeah.
I want to know how many cuts there are in this one.
Okay, we'll get to that. And I believe they refilmed part of the sequence in order to make the scene sort of work.
Wow.
Okay.
And I believe it's that sort of wide shot of her walking down. I believe they sort of recreated that and filmed it in the 2000.
Wow, that's a late
Damn.
time to film.
Yes.
Wow, that is
I mean,
crazy.
there's some of the aspects I could possibly have, but that's what I believe happened.
Okay.
So,
So going back to my question, how many cuts are there?
well, there
'Cause
are.
I've read that people who've watched The Exorcist may not have actually watched the knowingly not watched the original Exorcist,
So
because some of them are very different.
the DVD I've got here is the theatrical version of the film.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the one I would have seen when I was a kid. That freaked me out. On the Blu-ray I've got, which I haven't got with me, but I have got at home, has the version you've never seen, which is the kind of title they gave the cut, is Exorcist, the version you've never seen. And even I've got a poster on my wall actually of the Exorcist poster, and it actually says on it the version you've never seen. So obviously it's like a re-release poster.
interesting.
So in that there are various kind of added parts. Like I noticed when we watched the screening, there are two sort of added shots at the beginning, and the Iraq sequence kind of happens after that, whereas the theatrical cut, the Iraq sequence
It's first.
happens right at the beginning. There are also some added kind of George Lucas style CGI effects.
Oh no, we haven't got Jar Jar Binks.
No, luckily not.
Miss, I want an exorcism.
As a speaking in tongues.
I mean, he's got the red eyes.
The power of Christ compels you.
He's got the Sith eyes. Someone needs to cut that. Someone needs to have
Put
him.
him in as the priest. That's it.
Father Jar Jar.
That's it.
It's actually the statue that keeps
Oh
appearing
no,
as
a
Jar Jar
statue
Binks.
of Jar Jar Binks. Oh, no.
How's this got to Jar Jar Binks?
Somebody's going to have to put Jar Jar Binks' voice over Reagan.
AI can do that nowadays.
No.
Oh, blimey.
Misa going to throw up on you.
Your mother's in here with us, Annie. Would you like to leave a message? I'll be sure she gets it.
Well, wasn't that a thing with the pazuzu face that appears? Does that appear in the theatrical?
Okay, yeah, that's what I was saying about there's sort of minor added parts. There are a few added sort of subliminal flashes. I think a few more than there were in the theatrical version. One of them is, which I don't actually really like that much, is when Chris arrives home, Reagan's mum, and the lights are flickering, and she sort of walks up to the camera. It's quite a nice sort of close up. The lights flicker once more, and there's like a mini sort of Pazuzu face.
Isn't that in the kitchen?
Yeah, on like the hob.
That's it, yeah.
And I don't really, I don't know. It doesn't fit for me personally. I don't like it. And then later you've got that one behind the door, which I believe could have been added in the director's cut, but I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, you got the theatrical, the spider walk scene, which isn't in the theatrical, but is in the version you've never seen. The hypnotism scene, where they've kind of got Reagan early on in the film. They've got Reagan sitting in the chair, and they speak to Reagan, and then they speak to whoever's inside Reagan, the hypnotist.
Isn't that Mr. Captain Howdy?
I'll get to that actually. I'll get to that. And then she grabs him by the balls and
Is that what she
wrestles him to
does?
the floor,
I was wondering. I thought she like bit his stomach or something.
No, I think she grabs his balls. Anyway, she looks up at him, and then her face kind of like does like a weird CGI sort of demon face type thing.
Yeah.
And her teeth, she goes very gaunt, and that's added CGI for the version you've never seen. Or I should just say the director's cut.
Is that kind of like Father Karras at the end? Doesn't his face
His
kind of
face
go?
changes. It's almost like the demon has switched from her to him, and then he goes flying out the window and leaves her clear.
Yeah. So that's how it happens in the theatrical. However, in the theatrical, it's a hard cut from him being normal to the demon. So it's literally a hard cut. So he'll go from normal, and then suddenly he's got the
demon.
Yeah. Whereas the director's cut, they make it more of like a gradual fade, so it looks like it's sort of
taking him over.
Yeah, which actually is one of the changes I probably like.
Because I always presumed that he sort of had taken on the demon and then threw himself almost out the window in order to get away from Reagan and to end the possession by killing himself.
Yeah. I believe as well he looks up at the window before he does that, and he sees a flash of like his mother's face in the window.
Wow.
And that's only in the...
I'll have to watch this again.
That's only in the director's cut, I believe. I don't think that's in the theatrical one, but I could be wrong. But that's another one that I believe is changed.
Is it time for the listeners to have the Who is Pazuzu addressed?
Okay. So, I didn't want to have to do this.
It's only because we keep mentioning Pazuzu.
I could before we move on to what we're about to talk about, I could probably talk about The Exorcist for hours and hours. So, yeah. There's probably more things.
You're a super fan, Jack. We get it.
There's probably more things we could cover.
We're trying to discover what a super fan is.
So I'll address the Captain Howdy thing before.
Okay, Captain Howdy.
We get to the Pazuzu thing. I believe in the film, Captain Howdy's only mentioned once or twice.
Okay, so for the people that are listening,
sorry.
who or how? What is Captain Howdy?
So a scene early on in the film, Chris goes down to the basement where Reagan has her kind of play area.
Mum.
Chris's mum, Reagan's mum. And she's building her models, and she's like cleared out the garage or something. I can't remember what the scene, how the scene starts. But she gets a Ouija board.
Ah, yes, this is where.
Yeah, and she says, "Oh, I use this to," or something along the lines of, "I use this to talk to Captain Howdy."
So the mum must. What?
And the mum's like, "Oh, it's like cool. That's the thing a kid probably plays around with."
Imaginary friends, right?
Yeah. Oh, Captain Howdy. Yeah. So that has led people to believe that in the film that is the demon beginning to kind of
Manifest,
infiltrate Reagan and sort of take her trust, I guess, and
I
make
would have
friends.
thought that's a big foundation for, because obviously 1973, as you go through the 70s, when people talk of Ouija boards, it's like, do not play with them, do not play with them. The whole idea that if you touch a Ouija board, then you're going to accidentally release some kind of evil force.
Well, I'm not sure actually how.
I wonder if that kind of, again, kind of led from people watching the Exorcist movie.
I've not actually thought of that, how sort of early this would be for like Ouija boards. That's become like, obviously, like as you say, a very main
a
trope,
urban
I guess.
myth. Trope.
Of
And
horror
in films now, it's just prolific.
And if you notice as well in that scene, she kind of puts her fingers on it and it shoots off like towards the. I think it says no. I can't remember what the question she asks is, but she puts her fingers on it and it sort of shoots off across the board. And her mum sort of looks at it as if it's a bit strange that she managed to make it do that.
That is pretty strange.
But to my knowledge, you could correct me, I don't know, but to my knowledge, Captain Howdy's only mentioned once or twice.
Yeah, it's not that much. It's more towards the beginning, middle section of the film.
However, in the book, they refer to Captain Howdy a lot more, and it kind of becomes like his own, almost his own character in a way, because Reagan always talks about how she's like, Captain Howdy's been pushing me, or he's been hurting me, or he's been shouting rude words at me.
Right. So Captain Howdy is obviously...
Yeah. So in the film, it's a lot more subtle, whereas in the book, it's quite obvious that... I think people who I've seen online have said Captain Howdy could be the devil. Haven't read the book. I could put that down to that, because the book very clearly states that he is some form of entity that's infiltrating Reagan.
In the film itself, Reagan, the voices say, "I am the devil."
I'm the devil, yes. So, leads us on to Buzz's question about Pazuzu. Pazuzu is never mentioned in the original Exorcist film. It is mentioned in the book. So, in the Iraq sequence, when Father Merrin finds the Pazuzu statue, it's clearly stated what Pazuzu is. I think because Pazuzu is a real god in real mythology.
Factoid.
And I think they, I could be wrong, but I think they use it. They sometimes put the image of Pazuzu on like pregnant women, or it's like some sort of. I don't think it's as evil as it is in the book, and it's something to do with like the god of disease and I can't remember.
We're
but
gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, so the actual Pazuzu in real life, I'm not sure what it sort of represents, but I know it's the real thing. Pazuzu's never mentioned in the film. Only ever mentioned in the book, right at the beginning so far. As I say, I've got a bit more of a book to go, so it could come up again.
I was actually surprised by that, because I've heard people refer to Pazuzu like out of context. And I was like, I assume that's from The Exorcist.
Yes. So this is where, unfortunately, we have to talk about the sequels. Which, if any Exorcist fans out there are listening, you'll know that the Exorcist sequels are not great.
Yeah, I've seen the second one. I have memories of the second one, and it doesn't stand out to me as...
Yes. So, Pazuzu is mentioned in the second film, Exorcist II, The Heretic, which is rubbish, to be honest.
Don't they go back to Iran or something?
Yes. So, basically, the kind of premise of Exorcist II is that they've kind of built this like sort of psychic machine that if you put you can kind of, how do I explain this? It is a very difficult film to explain, but you can put like your dreams into someone else's head.
Oh yes.
So a priest is hired to, another priest, separate, not included in the first film, is hired to investigate the death of Father Merrin, who was killed at the end of the original Exorcist.
Yep.
You never actually see him get killed.
No,
but
you see him dead.
And Reagan's sort of on the corner of the bed looking like, and then she starts laughing, which is a really cool scene.
Yeah.
Didn't need to explain any of it.
Well, one presumes that I presumed there's a scene where he's in the toilet and he's taking a tablet.
Yeah.
I assume that he has heart issues.
Yes,
so
I
always assumed that he basically at that point had a heart attack.
Yeah, which is played on in the second one as well. So there's like this machine where you can hook up your mind to someone else's dream. So the priest decides to use this on Reagan, because she has no memory of what's happened in the first film. So he can go into her dreams and see what actually happened. It's a very silly premise, but this is what they decided to do. And he sees Father Merrin sort of having his heart like kind of torn.
Do you know that is
Ish.
ringing? Yeah,
Well, to me, this sounds really interesting.
The original, so
That she's sort of like, this image of either torn or being his heart being squeezed or something.
yeah. So how the scene plays out, Reagan is dream sharing, I guess is probably the best way to describe it, with a psychiatrist who is Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is quite interesting. She sort of starts bugging out and kind of going too far into the dream or whatever. So the priest decides to put it on to go into the dream, and he sees possessed Reagan on the bed with Father Merrin opposite her, and then Reagan, normal Reagan, I don't even know how I explain this, with her
You're doing a good job.
with her hand like on her heart,
Right.
and then possessed Reagan is on the other side grabbing her heart, and they're kind of like squishing and kind of playing tug of war with her heart. So that's a very bizarre scene. As you can tell, it has nothing really
To do with.
It doesn't hold a light to the original at all.
Okay.
But we do see Max von Sydow return as Father Merrin,
Really?
a younger Father Merrin, and we see his escapades in Africa, which is mentioned in the original film. Probably, I think only once. I think they say
Yeah.
we call him Father Merrin because he's the most recent sort of account of an exorcism.
He'd spent 6 months or a year doing an exorcism or something in Africa.
In Africa, yeah.
And they kind of breeze over that, don't they? They're just like, he's the one to call.
He's the guy.
He's the Ghostbuster.
So we see that happen, and there's a young African boy with a demon in him, and they actually, I will say, a slight kind of positive is that the makeup they use on the African boy is quite similar to the Reagan one, so it's kind of quite freaky, I guess. The directing isn't anywhere near as good, so it doesn't work as well. But he then says, "I am Pazuzu," in the voice of Reagan. So that's the first time it's mentioned. That boy then grows up to be James L. Jones,
Oh.
who is some kind of weird locust preacher god person.
Is that...
Who also turns into like a jaguar.
You sent a GIF to me the other day. Is that from this film?
Yes, so that's James L. Jones dressed in his locust.
Witch doctor.
Well, he dresses as a locust at one point, and then he also dresses as like a panther.
Oh, right.
And he in that clip I showed you, he sort of roars and then turns into like a panther.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
However, in the second film,
Yep.
we learn that Pazuzu preys on like special kids with special abilities.
Right.
So I don't like that because it kind of negates the idea of the original film being that she's just a normal
kid
Yeah.
who just happened to have
But they
open the way.
Yeah, they try and kind of play on the fact that she's maybe like psychic and things, and it doesn't really. It shouldn't.
I think if you're going for the scare
Yeah.
in a movie like that, you to say that it can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
If you do this by you're just playing with a Ouija board or you do something that you're open to
Yeah.
possession. If you've got to be certain special, then that means it's not quite so scary because you want to think it could happen to anyone.
Yeah, and William Friedkin says something quite profound, I guess, when he says that this isn't the alien or this isn't like Jason or Freddy. It's a normal girl in a normal like country with a normal family being possessed by the devil, and that's sort of what lies in that sort of unsettling, creepy atmosphere that the film has. So that sort of sums it up.
It's interesting though because if we say being possessed by the devil, or it's probably better surely to say a demon or a devil, not the devil. But she also speaks in different voices, as like
Latin at one point.
Yeah, like on the recordings, it's more than one voice is having a conversation. So.
And Greek, I think she speaks Greek.
So you kind
as well.
of assume that it's kind of demons.
That is one thing I have read about is the fact there could be more than one demon in Reagan, sort of fighting for
control.
Yeah, and we hear obviously they say like the devil is cunning and it will try and play on your mind. Don't listen to it.
Yeah.
And it gets to Father Karras when he starts speaking in his mother's voice and saying, "Dear me, dear me." Yeah, he sort of starts.
Why do you do this, dear me?
Yeah. Actually, in the book, that's another thing. In the book, we don't see. Actually, no, I think we do. The mum gets taken to the asylum because she's kind of going a bit crazy. But then they say that she died in her apartment, so I'm not sure.
Maybe she got taken back.
Possibly,
and then died.
So it kind of plays similarly.
Didn't Father Merrin, didn't he say that, no, there's only one. There's only one like demon.
It's the devil, yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
devil.
But I think
of
that
the different
might...
He will
personalities.
try to deceive you.
I kind of read that as Merrin kind of trying to lower
Sort of
the...
lower it to-
yeah,
to-
because
to-
if you say that to them, then they might be like, well, there's loads of them, or how
Yeah,
we've got a chance.
just ignore the one. Ignore
Yeah,
the lies.
listen to the... Yeah.
Yes, just do the actual exorcism and repeat
Yeah.
the responses and don't listen to what's going on.
Yeah.
Ignore the subject.
One of my favourite scenes is that moment where Merrin arrives at the house. And obviously it's on my T-shirt now, it's on
Yeah.
the front of the DVD.
It's probably the most prolific
It's the
It's
poster, yeah.
iconic-
image,
Yeah.
it's
the iconic
yeah.
image.
Yeah, and he sort of steps through the door, but he's still just a silhouette at that
Yeah.
point. And it's a really fantastic shot when you see the door open and it's just his silhouette. And he walks in and you hear the demon scream his name,
Yeah.
Merrin, from upstairs, which is quite chilling. And Karis is sort of saying, "Oh, do you want me to fill you in on the case on what's happened?" And he's like, "No,
I love that bit. I love it.
no, we
No.
just do this.
Let's just do it.
Let's get this done." So I really like that scene.
So I can see that there's obviously an Exorcist 3 by
Yes.
the Blu-ray that you've brought in.
Yes,
So that's,
How many Exorcist films are there?
okay, that's the explanation for your Pazuzu question. It's mentioned in the second film.
So second film. Now we're on to the third.
We're on to the third film, which is considered the best of the sequels.
Only two. Only two sequels.
There are... Well, it
Whoa.
gets a bit complicated.
Okay.
Oh, we'll get on to it. How long have we got?
Don't worry, just keep going. Keep going, Jack. You're doing really well. Really
Exorcist 3, after the kind of abysmal sort of reception that Exorcist 2, The Heretic, received, bad reviews, bad box office, William Peter Blatty decided that he would write... I think he might have written the book before, but I'm not sure. He wrote a book called Legion, which is a sequel to Exorcist. And he decided that he would write the film and direct it. So as you can see by the version that I brought in, which is by Arrow Video, he is the director. William Peter Blatty, it's his story, and he directed it. So he's gone from writing the book to writing the screenplay for the original film to then making his own film.
Did he put the money in for the movie as well? Did he?
Well, it's...
Was that still Warner Brothers that does that?
I believe it's a Warner Brothers, yeah. And that this kind of leads to, I guess, a quite controversial view on Exorcist 3 is that there was a lot of studio interference.
Okay.
Right.
So because of how badly the second film did,
So was this written to replace the second movie?
this was kind of to try and rescue the,
add-
the
Rescue the
franchise.
franchise.
So this
Yeah.
happens after.
Yes,
the
yeah.
second one?
So the second one is, I guess...
Is it considered canon to this?
Yes, well, it's Exorcist 3, so it's
Okay.
not... Okay, well, okay, there's a lot of questions, okay. So he decides to create Exorcist 3 to kind of make up for the losses, and unfortunately it kind of pays the debts of the second film in that it didn't do very well because people had seen the second one and gone, okay, I'm kind of done with this.
Okay.
But there was a lot of studio interference. William Peter Blatty wanted it to be, and I think the book Legion is a more kind of thrillery. It's all about the Gemini killer, so it's more of like a murder. It's almost Silence of the Lambs style
Oh,
story
okay. That's a interesting.
in the book. However, the studio, because it's an Exorcist film, they want
Yeah.
the possessions and the scary stuff.
Yeah.
And
That does
the-
make sense,
The
yeah.
demons. So a lot of interference happened, and he did very well actually to sort of create the film that he did with all the interference that he probably didn't want to put in. The theatrical version did pretty well, considering how badly the previous film did. But later on, they decided to recut the film almost completely, I guess, into a film that's now called Legion, or The Exorcist 3 Legion, or The Legion Cut, or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, well, that's really cool. Is that included on the Arrow Video Blu-ray?
Yeah, so there's something I love about Arrow is that it has the theatrical version of Exorcist 3 and the Legion Director's Cut, which is what they call it on here.
And is it better?
I've actually only seen the theatrical cut,
Right.
and I'm very interested to see the Legion cut because I wasn't a big fan of how it ended, of how Exorcist 3 ends, and I've heard the Legion isn't much better
Okay.
in terms of ending.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
I'm kind of. I don't know. I kind of feel as if I've seen all the Exorcist movies,
Yeah.
but I haven't revisited them.
but we also interestingly get the return of Father Karras and Kinderman, but played by a different character. Kinderman is the main character of
How
Exorcist
do
3.
you have, is it a flashback type of thing?
No, it's set,
How's
it's set after.
So how I thought Karras was dead.
Well, you have to watch The
All
Exorcist 3.
Oh.
Like he was on the ground and his hand was moving.
True, yeah.
His hand was moving while he was lying.
Well, any
That was a lot of blood, though.
That was a lot of blood.
any fans of the Exorcist franchise, I guess, or at least just if you've only just seen the original film, I definitely recommend seeing Exorcist 3. I can't recommend the Legion Cut because I've not seen it.
But now you've gone down a notch on your Superfan.
I know,
because
yeah.
you haven't seen it.
I know, and I haven't finished the book. I mean,
Oh dear.
what do I know?
I mean,
Is this
come
the first time
on.
you've read
He's
the
been
book?
carrying this
Is this the
episode.
first time you've read the book?
This is the first time I've read the book.
So
Yes,
there you go, so
I have had it for a while. I've just never.
But
dipped
he
into it.
knows, like, he seems to know the Exorcist
Yes.
film intimately.
Yes.
Yes.
So-
So,
It's really cool.
we had the Legion Cut, which I haven't seen, but is included in the Arrow video. Shout out to Arrow Video; they're very good at their
They are.
releases. So yeah, it's kind of an anomaly, I guess, Exorcist 3, in that it's kind of the third of a trilogy that's quite underrated. No one really talks about it much, but it's considered pretty good. There's apparently, well, I say apparently, I've seen it, but there's a scene in it which is considered to be the greatest jump scare in film history.
I think I've seen that. Isn't that the one with the
shears.
The shears,
Yes.
yeah.
So apparently that's one of the kind of scenes that people remember from the film.
Yeah.
There is an exorcism at the end featuring Father Karras, but I won't spoil too
No
much.
spoilers this one.
I won't spoil too much, but if you have a chance to see it, because it's quite readily available as an Arrow release, I would recommend you.
Right, so going
Seek out.
back to the original Exorcist, are there any factoids or interesting things you can tell us about it?
Ooh, okay. One interesting fact. I've actually got loads.
Go on, tell us.
I have one more question about it, by the way.
Oh, we'd ask the
And there are
question.
two more films.
Can ask
There
the-
are two more films.
And a
you see.
TV series and one that's coming out. A trilogy that's coming out. Okay.
Wow.
Anyway. One of the facts I learnt recently, actually, while reading the book, was that Marlon Brando
Oh, I know that one, yep.
was originally cast, well, not strictly cast, but
They had
considered
him in, considered, yeah.
considered for the role of Father Karras.
Yep.
In the book, ironically, Kinderman actually says to Karras that he looks a lot like Marlon Brando. So you can see why William Peter Blatty probably wanted Marlon Brando to play the character.
That would have been a funny joke.
Yeah.
That actually went.
So that's a little kind of factoid. Another one is that one of the male nurses in, I believe, the second sequence of Reagan's medical tests is actually a real-life serial killer. He,
Oh.
Did they know?
not at the time,
Well, they didn't know.
and I think a lot of his killings were after he made the film.
Right.
But he
Damn.
was a serial killer, which he killed. He preyed on a lot of gay men outside sort of gay clubs and killed a lot of gay males, which then inspired the William Friedkin film Cruising, starring Al Pacino.
Right.
So same director as The
Because at the
Exorcist.
time it was made, the crew felt that the set was
Yes.
would be the correct word, possessed, or there was
Cursed.
That's it.
Yes.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that's one of the things, one of those stories that kind of feeds into that curse thing, the fact that they cast a real life
So
serial
You
killer.
don't want to accidentally, like, because there's assumedly there's different nurses in that scene.
He does have a line, I believe, when he says like, "Reagan, if you could hold your head still." I'm pretty sure he has a line.
Oh no, it's that guy.
Yeah, the younger.
Oh
doctor.
no.
So yeah, he's a
Damn.
bad guy.
Gosh.
But I've watched a documentary about the film being cursed. It's on Shudder. If anyone's heard of Shudder.
Is that particularly valid? Is it cursed?
Well, I don't believe so. I don't know. It's an interesting story. I think
I think it was more publicity.
publicity is the main thing. Yeah, I think 9 people died while making it. Burke's character, the actor, died obviously before the film even came out, so he kind of, much like his true character, died. Karras's mum, the actress who plays her, died during the filming. The set burnt down, apart from Reagan's bedroom, which was untouched,
Oh dear.
which again feeds into that kind of.
Mythos.
Linda Blair was quite badly injured on the winch thing that was kind of flipping her forward and backwards.
Oh man.
Ellen Burstyn.
Are you sure it's not cursed?
Ellen Burstyn.
I think it just shows a lot of bad luck happen.
Yeah.
A lot of coincidences.
Ellen Burstyn injured her coccyx and has spinal problems to this day when she was pushed back onto the floor. In one of the first sort of possession scenes, she kind of gets thrown back.
Backwards.
And you
Was
can see-
that
you can-
before the door gets shut with
Yeah.
with the chair.
And you can see the pain kind of on her face. Interestingly, that scene as well, you can see someone laying next to Reagan's bed in that scene where the armchair flies in front of the door,
That's it.
and then the chest of drawers comes towards her.
Yeah.
Mm.
in that shot of the chest of drawers, there's someone laying on the floor next to Reagan's bed.
Because
You
your
can just-
focus is on the chest of drawers.
Yeah, you can just see the bottom of his shoe and his hand.
Okay.
A lot of people are theorising that it's Carl, who's the Swiss housekeeper,
Yeah.
which I believe is in the book, that he's the guy that he is actually the person that puts the crucifix under her pillow. But that
Right.
scene was never filmed. He's just on the floor.
Right.
So that's kind of an odd.
Now, was that
Anomaly.
intentional, or was it just the guy like from behind the scenes?
It was somebody who's lying
Well, it could
pushing the old air pump to make something.
It could be, but he's kind of laying on his. It's an odd position to be laying in. So that's kind of another thing that's sort of. But again, about the curse, I believe it probably was a lot of just publicity, and a lot of these things added up to being like, "Ooh, this film is cursed." A lot of people say the devil is in the film cell and things like that.
So I have one more question
Okay.
about.
Only one more.
Well, don't
Well,
worry,
no.
I've got the
Don't worry,
quick
don't worry.
fire questions coming up.
And there's a quiz, so there's a lot of questions to come. But my main question about the film, because I'm genuinely interested, is that kind of medallion thing that is found in the Iraq sequence at the beginning,
Yeah.
and then is later pulled off of Father Karras
Hmm.
as he flies out the window, type of thing.
Yeah.
Is that also in the book? And is there any explanation as to how that suddenly?
So
Around
far,
his neck?
interestingly, so far in the book, I'm probably like, let's say 60% through the book, no mention of the medallion at all.
Right.
I think it was a visual thing from Friedkin that he decided to do. You can kind of read into why he decided to do it.
Yeah.
I think it's more of like not subliminal, but kind of like a metaphorical thing.
I think I did do a bit of research on this.
Yeah.
And I did discover that there was actually a backstory to this medallion.
Well, it's actually in the next film we're about to talk about. It does actually recur.
Oh,
So,
wow, it comes back.
Yes. So I'd read into that at your own time about the
Okay.
medallion.
Okay.
I believe it's Karras's mum's medallion though, which kind of adds an extra kind of level
Ooh.
of yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because I think once she's passed away, he then puts it on him, and that's when Reagan pulls it off.
Yeah.
And it's theorized that that Pazuzu needed to take the medallion off of him in order to then possess him by the end.
Right.
Clever.
But again, I'm not.
Interpretation.
Yeah.
Open to interpretation.
It's not like I'm a fan or anything. I don't know. I can't answer these questions.
You're surrounded by all these Exorcist
I'm just
things.
a casual. So,
Were there any more films?
yes, there were 2 more films and a TV show.
Did you want to quickly? have
I
a
can
little
quickly
chat
go
about
over those. To be honest, they're the films. The 2 prequels and the series are probably the films I'm least familiar with. I do have one on DVD right next to me.
And what was that called?
This is Exorcist: The Beginning. So, I'll go through this as quickly as I can. A film was commissioned called Dominion, a prequel to The Exorcist, and it was supposed to be, as it's titled, a prequel to the original Exorcist, following Father Merrin on his escapades. And I think they kind of rehash the whole thing in Exorcist 2 about the African boy. It was made with Skarsgård. What's his name?
Bill Skarsgård.
Bill
No,
Skarsgård.
not Bill Skarsgård.
One of the Skarsgårds.
One of the Skarsgårds.
Father.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It
Him.
might be Bill Skarsgård. I think so.
We're going to... Alexander Skarsgård?
That's
Pennywise.
Stellan.
Stellan
There we go.
Skarsgård.
There you go.
Okay.
Got it in.
Filmed as Stellan Skarsgård as Father Merrin, and we see his journey through his backstory, basically. The film was completed, put together. The studio hated it, and they said, this isn't what we wanted, this isn't going to work at all, it's not scary, it's boring, all the negatives. So they hired Rennie Harlin, who's director of one of the Nightmare on Elm Streets.
Interesting.
Can't remember his name. He was commissioned to then reshoot parts of the film. He ended up making it again with Stellan Skarsgård as Father Merrin.
Right.
So he plays Father Merrin twice in the same film, the same story.
No way.
Yes. So
wow.
So he's Father Merrin in both films.
So wow.
So Dominion failed. They remade it, which is what I have here, which was retitled to
So-
Exorcist: The Beginning.
So does the original
is this
one
the
still
fifth one?
exist or not?
So you can still watch Dominion, and the reason for that is this one flopped. So then decided to release Dominion anyway, which also flopped. So they very
Wow.
much
So they're the
Yes.
2 movies.
that is really
they're the
interesting.
2 prequels. Very odd that there's 2 of the same film. Basically,
Featuring the same
actor. Yeah.
same actor.
So they go from everyone else is completely different. All the other actors are
I
completely
don't think
different.
I've seen those. I can't recall.
All the
those
other
at
actors are completely different, apart from Stellan Skarsgård, who's Father Marion in both films.
It's the multiverse. It's the beginning of the multiverse.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So 2004 was this one.
Yes.
So obviously Dominion never got released because they didn't like it. So they made this one.
I'm surprised because that's, in relatively speaking, that's not that long ago, because that was at the same time as your Lord of the Rings movies were out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I kind
yeah.
of think that a movie like that should
it was like 20 years
register
ago.
in my brain as seen it advertised, and I just don't remember it at all.
One thing I actually prefer in this version is that you do see the Pazuzu statue again, whereas in Dominion, there's there's quite a lot less sort of connections with the original film, and you can see why with this one, that they wanted to connect it to the original because that's what people wanted to see. So this one was released in 2004, and then they decided to re-release Dominion in 2005. So it's just the year after.
Oh, right. And then you mentioned a TV series.
Yes, I think that's everything about the prequels. I don't think there's much else really notable about them. They're pretty.
Are they worth a watch for those curious?
I think it's worth just.
Because I would
if you're a
certainly
movie
watch them.
fan,
I think if you're an
watch it.
Exorcist fan,
And a movie
Yeah,
watch
fan.
them.
which I'm growing. I'm growing to be an
I
Exorcist
want
fan.
to see these just for my own pleasure. Just to
out of
say.
curiosity, watch them,
Yeah.
but don't take them as gospel.
Okay.
Okay.
Dominion is considerably harder to find, as is Exorcist 2. However, you'll probably be able to find them in various dwellings.
I'll
So
try.
Internet
I'll try.
dwellings.
What did the TV series do? Did that follow the same script line, or was it just called The Exorcist and it dealt with lots of different people being possessed?
So, interesting you say that. In 2017, the Exorcist TV show came out, which was disguised as a reboot in that it kind of follows very similar beats to the original film,
Right.
with a mother and a daughter.
Yeah.
The daughter becomes possessed. I think they hire like a cool priest and like an old priest, like a cool hip new priest to get all the kids in and perform the exorcism, and it's very
How did
bloated.
One season?
2 seasons.
Oh, it managed 2 seasons.
Damn.
So in the second season, you find out that the mother is actually Reagan.
Oh, right. Okay. So,
So she's not played by Linda Blair. She's played by a different actress.
but that's kind of like. Therefore, obviously, if she was Linda Blair,
You'd know exactly.
you'd know
yeah,
exactly
yeah.
that. So that was kind of a.
So the mother of this daughter who's being possessed is actually Reagan, and she's suppressed all the memories, and she's like, "Oh, this happened to me." And
Good.
it,
And that happened. That's the second series bit.
yes, which I believe actually came out very recently.
Okay.
Spoilers for anyone who's watching the series, because that's a big
Is
spoiler.
that an Amazon, Netflix, Disney?
I think you can get it on physical media. I've seen it.
You maybe, yeah, we'll be able to
I
find
just
it.
wondered who actually produced.
I'm
that
not
series.
sure in terms of what the production company was. I think by this point Warner Brothers had kind of ditched it
yeah.
after the failure of the last 2,
Right.
which brings us to
The new
modern
one.
day.
The new one.
So we have very recent, well, as of time of recording, within the next couple of weeks, we'll have the new Exorcist Believer, which I think looks really good.
Is this a new movie?
Yes.
This is a new film.
We saw the trailer for it.
I will
Yes.
say. I will say you're messing up my 6 quickfire questions. At the moment. You'll find
Oh,
out.
we'll answer them
Alright.
anyway. So we have Exorcist Believer, which I'm really looking forward to, and it is part of a trilogy. So there's going to be Exorcist Believer.
If it does well.
If it does well. 2025, we're having Exorcist Deceiver.
Believer, deceiver, transceiver. That's the
And then
third one.
Exorcist 3, or
It's got a rhyme.
it's untitled.
Exorcist Untitled.
They haven't thought of the title yet.
I think that's really interesting.
I can,
Deceiver.
I can imagine as we're in late 2023, as of time of recording, we have Believer. 2025 is Deceiver, so I'd imagine maybe 2027 we'll have the
It's
third.
done by the same guy who did the Halloween trilogy recently.
Yes, David Gordon Green.
Yeah, that's the name.
So he's taking on The Exorcist.
And that was
to be
quite
honest,
a
I
mixed,
think
mixed received
a
trilogy.
A trip to the cinema is coming up, lads.
I'm very,
Another one. Jeez.
I'm very cautious because I like the look of Exorcist Believer. I think the trailer did really well. It actually plays on an original band trailer. If you have a chance to go on YouTube and look up the band Exorcist trailer, because it was too scary and too epileptic. What's the word? Epilepsy.
Photosensitive epilepsy.
Yeah, there's a lot of flashing images.
That
So it was banned, and there's a lot of scary Pazuzu faces, and they actually play on that in the new Believer trailer, where there's the same sort of effect, which is really cool. And you obviously hear the famous music.
And is it a direct sequel to the original?
Yes, so this erases everything from Exorcist 2,
Onwards.
Exorcist 3, I believe.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. Obviously, it's not out yet. But from what I know so far is that it's just a direct sequel from the first one. We have the return of Ellen Burstyn as Chris McNeil, which is really cool. But as I was saying, I think I really like the look of Exorcist Believer. However, the last Halloween film did disappoint me.
Yeah.
It disappointed me.
Halloween
And
ends.
if they're going to do a trilogy
Yep.
of the same people, I hope that they kind of finish off the trilogy well.
It's odd because it was literally from the get-go in 2018, there's going to be a new Halloween trilogy.
And I liked the first two.
First two, it kind of gets, after the second one, it goes downhill quite fast.
Yeah, so I'm hoping this...
The third one, I don't get... We talked about it last year, didn't we?
Yeah, go and listen to that episode. But, yeah, so hopefully
that's for us to look forward to.
This Exorcist Untitled third in the trilogy, I hope sticks the landing, and I hope Exorcist Believer's good.
Personally, I think the only way you can pull something like that off these days is do a Peter Jackson, film them all at the same time.
Back to back, while you've got the same cast.
Because you've got all the same cast, and by filming them back to back, because you're probably filming scenes from all three movies in disjointed order, you're going to keep the same kind of level of energy up.
And that was the problem with the third Halloween movie. They just didn't know what to do with it.
When you do a movie and then you go look at the box office takings and see how it goes,
and you have to stretch it over 3 films,
then that's when it starts to fall apart, or it can do.
Yeah. So that's sort of it.
We're
up to the modern day.
Can I jump in there with a couple of little factoids?
Yeah.
I want to get out. I mentioned obviously it was banned in the UK for home sales.
Mm-hmm.
That was mainly because it was Linda Blair was only a 12-year-old girl, and they felt that it appealed to children to watch it because it had a young girl.
That's.
And Warner Bros. Actually hired bodyguards for her because the sort of extreme Christians.
In America, the extreme Christians.
They were worried that she was going to get.
She did
attacked.
a stellar performance in the movie.
I
mean, considering she was 12 years old and to be able to perform the way she did, I mean, absolutely crazy. Crazy.
Another little factoid is that she, her first time she said her obscenities while Max von Sydow was in the room, he forgot his lines because he was so shocked at what she was saying.
Because these days everybody puts that down to you see like memes of I can't think of the actress's name, but from Kick-Ass, and
Chloe Grace Moretz,
saying that she's the most foul-mouthed
Yeah.
child actress. And you're thinking, have you not seen The Exorcist?
It's like people saying that Gal Gadot is like the first female action hero. I'm like, come on, Ripley. Come on.
So my other factoid, get this one in, is again when she's speaking in the voices, a lot of the noises and the grunts and the hissing and everything was recorded. They were recorded from pigs.
Yes.
And then turned backwards. Ooh. And in that last scene, I forget, I've been wanting to say this. The last scene where Reagan is unpossessed, if you like, and he goes over to
Father Karras.
The sounds used in that scene were a load of pigs being taken to slaughter.
Yeah. Which apparently is a biblical meaning with pigs as well, which I think was sort of adds to the subject.
How that adds a lot.
And to add on to
this is the fandom I'm liking.
The DLC onto your little factoid there. While he's at the bottom of the stairs, there's a graffiti on the left-hand side of the stairs that says something pigs.
Right.
Fight pigs or something. It definitely says pigs.
Buy bacon.
That's the one word you can read. It says pigs written in
vegan.
It says pigs written in red graffiti.
Right. Well, that is bringing me on to my 6 quick-fire questions for our special guest, who is proving himself to be a bit of a super fan.
He is a super fan.
Also, on the pig thing, in the book, she makes a lot of animal sounds, like she neighs and barks and hisses like a cat and things.
Oh, very interesting. Right, are you ready?
Also, in the
another one.
In the book as well.
You can't stop turning him off, somebody.
because it's a book.
Yep.
They can do a lot.
It doesn't make sounds, books.
No, in my mind they do.
It's in your head.
It's Captain Howdy in my brain.
Captain Howdy's in your brain.
In the book, obviously, they can exaggerate a lot of what Reagan does. So she does a lot of like levitation and flips and contortion and things which they couldn't film back in the 70s.
They did a hell of a good job, though.
So in the book, she's a lot more like erratically possessed.
Oh, right, yeah. Right.
Maybe that is the definition of a superfan, somebody that won't shut up about something.
Well, I'm a bit worried because so far, all the people we've had in to discuss what a superfan is have always said they think that a superfan is kind of like on the edge of being, you know, like obsessive and kind of stalker-like.
So, Jack, would you consider yourself obsessed with The Exorcist?
Yeah.
I've seen it a couple of times.
You haven't played the part of the odd doctor in a scene by any chance?
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
Right, in that case, time for you to listen momentarily to my 6 quick
I'm going to have a
questions.
sip of water before I ask.
Okay, have a sip of water.
I should also mention...
No spitting it out or projectile vomiting across the studio at this point.
I should also mention I have behind me a pop vinyl, Funko pop vinyl.
I was going to ask what that was.
I didn't see it because it's behind you. Come on, show us that first. I'll get to be questions in a minute.
I'll pass around the merchandise. This is a Funko Pop of Reagan.
Right, I'm going to have to take a photograph of you with this.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yes.
definitely got to go on the thumbnail.
That's it. Really, it needs a little sort of like water pistol. But
Yeah, well,
right.
they put the puke on the inside of the box, which is quite funny.
Oh, yes.
Oh, man. That's really cool. That's really cool.
She doesn't stand up out the box, so that's why she's in the box.
Oh, I see.
The
head's too big.
Yeah, there you go.
Lovely.
And it's got that famous poster on the back.
Yes. Very nice. Right, are you ready for my 6 quick fire questions? He's avoiding them totally. You ruined them anyway. You'll find out why.
Okay, I'm ready.
Ready. Right, so question number 1. Do you believe in possession?
Yes.
Okay, number 2.
Because, sorry,
All right.
just to add on that,
Yes was fine.
in the book, they actually talk a lot about how possession could still be a mental illness, and that if you're aware of possession, then that could manifest, and you think you're possessed when you're actually not. And even in the film, they say
They do.
in the film they say you can perform an exorcism, but it's not going to actually do anything. It's just going to be like a placebo effect. It's just going to make her think that she's been exorcised.
Exercise. Just been out for a run.
Yes.
Well, no, for 6 years I worked in the mental health industry, if you want to call it like that. And I had to look after lots of different service clients, and there was a particular one who was schizophrenic, and he had multiple personality disorder, and it's quite an eye opener when you've got somebody in front of you that actually really does.
And you can see why.
At this.
Yeah.
Click your fingers can change their personality and imagines things happening. You know, I don't want to give anything away with that, obviously confidential stuff, but this person kept seeing characters, people walking down the stairs while I was there. Yeah. And they were as real to him as anything, but I'm standing there, there's nothing there. Yeah. Or was there? I don't know. But
maybe they're just more sensitive to this stuff than you.
If you can imagine that happening in like the 1600s, 1500s, where they had no idea what schizophrenia was, you can definitely see why they would think you're possessed by a demon or something like that.
Anyway, so your question number 1 answer was yes. This is not very quick fire, is it? Right, question number 2 is this is where it goes. This is where it's going to fall flat on its face. Okay. Is the book better than the film? You've already said that. Basically,
it's basically the same, but I haven't finished the book yet, so I'm going to say
what kind of superfan are you? I don't know.
I'm going to say the film.
Okay, question number 3. Favourite character in the film? That's something you haven't.
That is interesting. I like Father Karras's story. I think he's got a really interesting story which you can sort of read into a lot. Father Merrin, I think, is a fantastic character. But actually, I'm actually going to say Kinderman. Having read the book, I quite like his... because he kind of approaches it
That's the detective, isn't it?
Yeah, so he kind of
approaches... That's the one you see right in the last sequence at the top of the stairs.
Yes. And you kind of see him... You see the events that are happening from his perspective, which are a more like detective perspective, as opposed to a priest, which is looking at it from a religious perspective. He's looking at it from a more like... So I'm going to say Kinderman.
Excellent answer. Question 4. Do you think they should do a remake? You've already answered that one.
No. They shouldn't.
They shouldn't.
They could do sequels as much as they want, because they'll never get it right.
Okay.
Never remake
it.
So
what you said is we're getting a sequel then?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So Exorcist...
that didn't ruin my question.
No, so Exorcist Believer is a direct sequel to the original, and it ignores all the rest.
Okay, so therefore you don't think they should remake the Exorcist.
Don't remake the original.
Okay, 5. What's your favourite scene in The Exorcist?
Okay, there are a few.
There's a few.
Pick one.
Pick one.
My
Come on,
favourite.
we got to go home.
Still got a quiz.
Still
yeah.
got a quiz
I've got
to do.
two. Okay, I'm going to
Okay,
say both. Father Karras first walks into Reagan's room, and you see her kind of in her makeup for the first time. She's got the tube in her nose,
Oh yes, I know that.
and that's when she says,
the
"I'm."
wheezing.
Yes, yeah.
It's like Regan's in the room with us.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I wonder why he was floating.
As his head spins around.
And that's where it starts sort of toying with him. Really like that scene. The room was actually very cold, which is why you can see their breath.
Yeah.
It's between that or when Father Merrin first arrives at the house.
Okay.
Okay.
Question 6.
Obviously. Yeah.
Last question. Projectile vomit or head spin?
Ooh. Headspin.
There we go.
That is pretty creepy.
Do you want me
Yeah.
to explain?
That's it. And that was the 6 quickfire questions. Thank you very much for that one, Jack. And now we are over to...
Let's get quizzical.
Let's get
Yay.
quizzical.
Quizzical.
I want to get quizzical. Let's get into Exorcist.
quizzical. Let's get your exorcism on.
The power of Christ,
Christ
compels
compels you. The power of Christ compels
Okie
you.
dokie. So this is a Let's Get Quizzical quiz that is based on horror movies.
Okay.
Oh, it's not about the Exorcist.
Well, it might be. It might be. 10 questions. You can either work against
No,
each
we're
other
gonna be a
or
team.
together.
Yeah, we'll be a team.
We're going to be
We'll
a
be a
team.
team.
Okay.
Give it to me, buddy.
keep my winning streak going.
That's it.
How many points do we need to win?
How many questions?
10.
10 questions.
So we need 10 to win.
10 to win.
Okay.
100%. It's a harsh
Cool,
quiz.
there's 2 of us.
Yeah.
5
Okay,
each.
I'll try and keep score. Okay. Listeners at home, you can...
Play along out there.
Play along at home.
What year was the original Friday the 13th released?
Ooh.
1980, I believe.
Yeah, I'd say 1980.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well done. That's one.
I'm quite good with film dates, I think.
Okie dokie. Got a bit harder now. Question 2. Name the Cenobites in the original Hellraiser.
That'd be Pinhead.
They don't actually have names. Ish. Or they have
I'm assuming that people just gave them names to refer to them.
I think there's lead Cenobite. Because this is going to be a trick question because it's Zach.
Yeah, it's probably it's like
Don't overthink it.
Second son of a
Yeah.
Don't overthink
We'll
it.
say
I don't know.
Pinhead. Because
Okay,
if we're
yeah.
not, we know we're right if we say
You
Pinhead.
had Pinhead. Did you have Chatterer in the first one? I think Chatterer was there.
Yes.
You had the piggy one who was fat,
Butterball.
Butterball, and was the other one called Vagina? Or something?
Vagina neck.
It was something like Vagina.
Oh, Christ. I can't remember what.
Don't overthink it.
Okay.
It's credited very generically.
Okay, so it's going to be
Cenobite
Cenobite
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Come on then.
Well, I can tell you the official name.
Come
the
on.
official name was Deep Throat.
Oh, not Vagina Neck.
No.
So they're the names they were given later on. Whereas in the original Hellraiser, they were just Cenobites 1 to 4.
Come on.
See, this is why we don't like Zach do
You're
the quiz.
overthinking it, okay?
Okay.
You're overthinking it.
What's your answer? That's what counts.
Well, the answers that were going to count were Pinhead,
Yeah.
Butterball, Chatterer, Female Cenobite, and the Engineer.
Didn't get
I
the
think we
engineer.
got the majority of them, though.
I think we got 4.
I can't even picture what the engineer is. So.
No, the engineer. Who's the
The
engineer?
Scorpion guy. The Scorpion guy who runs down the corridor.
He's not a
He is.
Cenobite.
He is.
He's
I've
just
got a
one of the-
screenshot. I have a screenshot.
Well, the thing that runs
Like
with
with
the...
like it's got legs on the wall.
That is a Cenobite.
I just thought that was a creature.
It's just
within
some sort of minion, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's a minion.
It counts. I've got a screenshot that says so.
I think because we got the majority of which you get the point.
Yeah, I think so.
And we did the whole,
Yeah,
They weren't called that in the
I
original
did say vagina neck, but that does point to the fact that she's a lady.
and it's
And you
kind
did
of
say
close.
female.
It's close to Deep Throat as well.
I'm going to be very...
I think we got that, didn't
Yeah,
you?
yeah, I'll take it.
Oh,
It's 2.
You've take the
you've
point.
forced me into a corner. I'm going to give it to you. Okay, but
This is
these
why
other
we
ones,
team-
these other
We
ones,
forced you into a
That's it.
event configuration.
That's our
All right,
wild card.
okay.
that is your one time.
Okay.
You're going to be lenient that one time.
We're still 100% though.
Question 3. How many Necronomicons are there said to be in the Evil Dead movies?
Oh, 9?
Discuss.
Well, it was obviously the one in the original.
Yeah, I know.
Which is in the basement.
There are
Is this in the TV show as well?
in the new one. I'm sure.
Ash versus the Evil Dead.
I am talking about the original 3 movies
Right.
So not the-
and the new one.
And see, the new one says that there are a few.
All right.
I don't know.
What about the one before the 20?
It's the same number, no matter how you look at it.
What about the 2015 one? The one before the last one. Because there's one in that.
I don't know. I'll go 9.
Interesting.
So this could be any
It
answer.
could be a 6. I could have got it upside down. It could be 6. But there you go.
I think you were quite confident with the 9 originally.
Somebody's just telling me 9.
Yeah, we'll go with 9.
Incorrect.
Oh,
It's 3.
is that all?
Yes.
It's just 3?
Yeah, 3 in Army of Darkness, and then they specifically say that there are 3 in Evil Dead Rise.
Okay.
So there should be 6.
1 down.
It's the same 3, okay?
All right, we're 1 down.
Who is the character Scary Terry a parody of?
Scary Terry, I believe, is a character in Rick and Morty
Oh,
who is parodying Freddy Krueger.
it's got to be. Yeah. I've seen the episode.
Because I
Scary Terry.
believe Scary Terry
Yeah,
is his name.
Freddy Krueger.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's 3 out of
Well
4 so
remembered,
far.
Jack.
Who played the Leprechaun in the first 6 movies?
The Leprechaun. Well, that's
Warwick Davis,
Warwick
I
Davis.
believe.
Correct.
We're on a roll.
Where's me gold?
Has it also got Jennifer Aniston in it? And very,
the first
very
movie.
young.
And who's the other chap? Oh, yeah, there's a chap.
This
in the
isn't a
first
question, by the way. You're
Yeah.
just thinking about this.
We're just giving you a
Oh,
super
gosh.
fan
one.
question.
Come on, Zach, you know who was in the first movie? It's Jennifer Aniston. And there's a chap in there, a well-known actor. No?
I haven't seen it in ages.
Oh, right, okay.
Warwick Davis.
Warwick Davis.
Okay, question 6. How many video nasties were there on the original list?
Ooh,
I don't
that
know
was a
what that.
lot.
I don't know what that is, so I'm gonna leave that to
30
you. I
or
don't know what that
60.
is. So
Video, right, so
I
video
know what a
nasties-
video nasty is, but I don't know if there's any
no,
list.
originally, you had people like Mary Whitehouse. You probably wouldn't know the name, but she
She cancelled Doctor Who.
yeah,
Well, she tried to.
she complained about all sorts of things all
Yeah,
the
yeah, I
time.
know.
And when videos obviously became popular and it was much easier for people to get access to these kind of things like the Evil Dead and I'm sure probably a Chainsaw Massacre and things, they were all deemed video nasties and then put on a banned list. And so I would presume it was the British film BFI that then made this list of ones that you couldn't get in the video store, a banned list.
Cool. So you reckon there were 30?
Oh, it could have been 90. Oh, God. There was a lot.
That's quite a big.
I have had a look at this list,
You did mention it the other day.
and I do want to watch all of them.
Yes, we need to do the list.
I'm going to say 50. I don't know. I'm just chucking my 2 pence in.
I'll go 90.
Okay.
Go on.
72.
Oh, I was close.
That's very specific.
Close.
We're in between. I said
There
50.
you
You said
go.
90.
There you
That's a point.
go. That's the point. Come on
Okay,
then.
so you got 4 out of 6 so far.
Okay, come on.
Number 7. What film franchise is the Sawyer family associated with?
The Sawyer family. That's not Texas Chainsaw Massacre, is it?
No, I did.
Sawyers? They're not the people who own the farm, are they?
Is it because it says saw in it? Sawyer.
Saw? Texas Chainsaw? No, yeah, it's because Leatherface has got a chainsaw. I'm just thinking of... could it be that?
Sawyer.
what's
Or
the
is it
other one I'm thinking
is it
of?
the
Oh,
what's it called? What's the one with the house, the haunted house that they made loads of? Do you know which one I mean?
Amityville Horror.
Amityville? Do you think it might be?
Possibly.
Because it's a family.
There is another one that's coming out. I'm trying to think.
Are you
of
liking
another
this quiz
It's
so
not
far?
The Exorcist.
Because I'm
Can
enjoying it.
narrow that one down.
one. Oh, there was another one that, and I can't think of the.
Is this a whole franchise? Are they in all of them?
It's not in all of them.
Right.
So
So it'll probably just be in the original one, I'd imagine.
It's in most of them.
there's another one. I can't think of it. Well, this
They changed the name in a remake.
these.
So you got Voorhees family. That can't be Friday the 13th.
teenagers. It's always teenagers. I know they go to this place where there's this weird clown guy, and then they go off and they find this
Is this a dream you had?
It sounds like it.
family that are living out in the woods.
Oh, the Rob Zombie
God.
thing.
Oh no! Go on.
No, I haven't had an answer.
Go on,
yet.
yeah, I need an answer.
My answer was I'm going to stick with the Chainsaw Massacre. I'm just thinking.
You've got to agree on an answer.
And
here,
they're our
guys.
family, aren't they?
They're a family.
And they're in a few, like that.
Go on, Grandpa.
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 I'm pretty sure he says Grandpa Sawyer.
Grandpa Sawyer.
Let's go with it.
While he's trying to lump.
You're
hammer.
going with
Here we go.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
You are correct.
Yay! I just felt right.
Yeah, well done.
Okie dokie. Question 8.
Yep.
This is a multiple choice one. Christopher Lee is famous for having 0 lines in which Hammer Horror Dracula movie?
Dracula.
Brides of Dracula,
Always multiple choice.
Taste the Blood of Dracula, Dracula Prince of Darkness, or Dracula AD?
Dracula, Prince of Darkness.
That's the first one, isn't it?
I'm sure it is, because if I recall...
Wouldn't he have lines in it?
If I recall, when Christopher Lee first played Dracula, obviously Peter Cushing was also in the movie, and I remember it being said that Christopher Lee burst into Peter Cushing's dressing room and said, "I can't believe it, I haven't got a single line in this movie." And Peter Cushing turned around and said, "Well, I've read the script and you're the lucky one."
I've heard that story.
So I think it's Dracula, Prince of Darkness.
Interesting. What were the other ones? Brides of Dracula?
Brides of Dracula?
No, it wouldn't be that one.
No.
Any reason why it wouldn't be that one?
Because
he's got brides.
Further down the
He needs to talk to his brides.
Taste the Blood of Dracula?
No.
That's one of the 8 later ones.
Isn't that one? It's either that one's with Johnny Alucard or
Dracula AD.
Or Dracula AD.
That's the one where he goes to the 70s, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it?
There's one. There's a couple. There's Dracula AD is 70s, and I think Taste the Blood of Dracula is.
Isn't
where
it
they
called
find a bottle of his blood in like a bric-a-brac shop?
Isn't it Dracula AD 1970 something?
Could be. I think that's the one with Johnny Alucard.
Is the title of the film Dracula AD?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
right.
then there is a date after it, but that would give that away.
72. 1972.
Why would that give it away?
Well, that would help you.
That's 1972. I'm sure it's AD.
We'll go with your
72.
answer.
I'd probably listen to...
Go on.
What was your answer?
Dracula, Prince of Darkness.
That is the correct answer, but that
He's
was
dubbed.
actually the third Dracula movie.
Right, so it was
the
the
second
first.
one being Brides of Dracula, which does not feature Christopher Lee.
Right.
So his first appearance was the third one.
No.
That was his second appearance as Dracula.
What's the first one called?
Dracula.
Okay. All these stupid subtitles. Just go Exorcist 1, 2, and 3. Come on.
Okie dokie. So you got 2 questions wrong so far.
Okay, well, we're not too bad. We got 8 then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've still got more, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, 2 more. 2 more.
Two more. We got 6.
Name David's friend in American Werewolf in London.
Oh,
Jack, I think,
Jack.
isn't it?
yes, Jack. Jack, I didn't mean to call you a meatloaf, Jack.
Because he got his whole face is like clawed
Yeah.
off.
You
I think
get,
it's Jack.
you get an extra point if you can get the surname.
Oh, it's going to be Jewish type of name, isn't it?
Jack
Schwartz.
Goldstein.
Yeah, Schwartz. Jack Schwartz. I have no idea.
Come on, give
I
us
think we
a name.
got Jack though. That's a
Jack.
point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, we need an extra point though. We might save this quiz.
Yeah, you might be able to save it.
The last question might be 2 points.
Well, I'll wrestle him to the floor. You Google.
Jack.
Google is not allowed.
Jack.
Jack. Oh, because the when talking about the police, they say the something boy. Yeah, I'm referring to the lad. His friend
Yeah,
Jack.
I do.
Jack was found dead.
Wilder spin.
Jack was. Oh, Jack. No, I can't get it.
No,
No.
you're just going with Jack.
Go
We'll
with
take
Jack.
the point
So
if it is Jack.
you are correct. It was Jack. The second name was Goodman.
Good.
Oh, I
one.
said Goldstein. I wasn't far off. It starts with G and ends with N.
That's not the favourite name these
Okay,
days, is it?
final question. Final
Okay,
question.
Final question.
Name George A. Romero's unmade zombie movie.
What?
It's the one that's currently in the works at the moment.
It's going to be something of the dead, isn't it?
Okay.
Surely.
Right, we got Night of the Living Dead.
Dawn
Morning
of the Dead.
After.
Morning after the...
Dawn of the Dead.
Shaun
Day
of the
Dead.
Land of the Dead.
We got Land of the Dead. That's already made that one.
I thought we were going through them all.
Yeah, Land of the Dead. Yeah.
If you can list them, I'll give you an extra point.
Okay, so
Okay.
we got Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah. Dawn of the Dead.
Day of the Dead. Land of the Dead.
Land of the Dead.
The Dead.
Is there Diary of the Dead, one of the later ones?
You don't have to get them in an order. You can just name them.
Diary of the Dead. Sure, that's one of them.
I don't know. It's unmade one.
We get an extra point if we get more. How many more have we got?
Got one more before the one that's the answer. Don't overthink it.
The Living Dead.
Get out.
That's underthinking it.
Oh, crikey.
Surprisingly, it
The
does.
Dead.
It does apparently link to Diary of the Dead.
Was I actually right with that one?
You are.
Wow, I plucked that out of nowhere.
I think there's a character that crosses over.
Filofax of the Dead. Yeah, you wouldn't know what Filofax is, would you? You're too young.
You keep talking about it all of the time.
Do I?
Hmm.
Well, that's zombie flesh eaters.
No,
that's
not
okay.
not in the context of zombie
That's
films.
great. It's got
It's just a
shark. It's got a
word.
zombie attacking a shark.
Zombie with an eye.
That's
By
me
Dario
talking.
Argento.
That's me talking. Come on. You like
Dead of the Dead.
bushcraft and...
Camp of the
Survive the Dead.
Dead. Survival of the Dead.
There you
Survival
go,
of the Dead.
Jack.
Survival of the Dead.
So name them. List them all out.
Okay.
Go.
Night of the Living Dead. Dawn of the
Dawn of the
Dead.
Day
Day of the Dead. Land of the Dead. Diary of the Dead. But there's one
and
before that, he said.
Survival of the Dead.
And Survival. But he said there's one before that.
That was Diary.
So we were right. We got all
Yeah.
of them.
What's the other one? What's the new one?
The new one.
Survival of the Dead.
No, that's the latest one. What? There's one after that. That's the answer to the initial question.
Oh, so I thought Survival of the Dead was the answer.
Bushcraft of the Dead.
No.
Zombies of the Dead.
Preppers of the Dead. I don't know.
Sea of the Dead.
That's it. Land of the Dead. No, we've had Land of the Dead. City of
Underground.
Dead. City of the Dead.
It's a film we all hate. The word. It's of the dead, but it's a film that we all hate.
Highlander of the Dead.
No, Highlands is a good movie. It's the second one that's good.
Highlander 2 of the
Highlander 3 of the Dead.
It's a movie that we all don't like.
Sparkly.
Oh,
Twilight of the Dead.
Correct.
Twilight of the Dead.
Correct.
Is that what they're making Twilight of the Dead?
Yeah.
They should have come up with a better title than that.
We got Twilight Zone.
I'm all sparkly, Annie. Brains. Brains.
Okay, so
Watch The Lost Boys. It's a better teenage vampire.
so you made up one extra point there,
Did
so you
we?
got 9 out of 10.
Yay!
How do we get an extra point to win?
How many Friday the 13th movies are there?
12.
There you go.
Oh, crikey, I've got to count now.
Wait,
How did
I
it go?
think it's 12 because there's Jason X, and then you got
Okay.
that's 10.
Yeah.
That's the first 10.
We're losing listeners here, guys. Come on.
And then you got the remake and Freddy vs Jason at 12.
Damn.
There you go.
Correct.
There
We won.
You won.
Yay! You're
Just
pulled-
about.
Thank you.
Do you know what?
We
It was
pulled-
really funny. When you messaged me earlier and said that you were going to do a horror film quiz, I thought to myself, how many Friday the 13th films are there? Because I'm sure that's going to be a question.
Well,
And I worked out it was 12.
You certainly pulled that out of the hat, and that's a tenuous connection there, tenuous link, shall I say, to I'm going to get the hat out the corner of the studio.
All the random hat
Random
for
hat.
our exclusive flashback episodes, which are available for our patrons and YouTube members.
Okay, so I've got the hat of destiny
And mystery.
and mystery.
Hopefully it'll be horror.
Jack, you're
As
our
the super
guest,
fan.
super fan.
Let's hope it's horror because it's spooky season.
I still don't consider you a super fan. The
Oh,
reason I
okay.
say that is because
Sorry, I don't know enough about
you
Exorcist.
you haven't even read the book.
What more do you
Oh,
need? He's surrounded by Exorcist memorabilia.
When we talk about super fans of Lord of the Rings, everybody's read the book.
He-
He hasn't read the book yet.
I mean,
He hasn't
come on.
finished it. He's
That's fine. I'll concede my title.
No,
You just have to change
I
the-
would say
I would-
he's a super fan.
I would say he's an extremely good fan.
Oh, come on.
There we go. That's fine.
He's
Just
an
retitle-
Exorcist super
I tell you
fan.
what, we'll leave it up to the listeners.
If you think Jack is
He's
a
a
super
super fan.
fan of The Exorcist, please comment below.
Yes or
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
There you go. Leave it
And
up to our
whatever the
listeners.
title of this episode is, we'll decide. Okay, I have picked one out of the hat.
Okay, what did we
What is
got?
it?
Ooh, okay. It's episode 9,
Okay.
which is Japanese Snack 2.
Ooh,
Oh, crikey.
we got to talk about
That is a
Japanese
very
snack
niche.
too.
Very
we're,
niche.
we're still treading them into the carpet.
We are.
Okay,
It's
so
one of my favourite episodes, Japanese
okay,
Snack.
we're gonna be doing that for our special.
Special.
How
Hang
do
on.
we-
Have you got any left? That'd be something.
Yeah,
I
Have
think
you
so.
got
I
any
don't
left?
know if they'll be in date, but I have
We'll
some.
eat it.
that's
We'll
okay.
eat them.
I'm quite used to eating out of date food.
Bring a couple in, and we'll do the exclusive episode.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we'll do. Brilliant. Well, there we go. Okay, I concede. Jack is a super fan of Exorcist.
Yes.
Cool, I'll take it.
Okay.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe to this channel and comment below any suggestions of topics or activities you'd like to listen to in future episodes. That's a big, I swallow your soul. Goodbye from Zach.
That's Evil Dead.
That's even it.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, that's a by the power of Christ, I compel you. Is that?
No.
Oh, got it wrong. No, I wouldn't be very good at this.
God. Calling me not a super fan. Get of the wrong film and then the wrong quote.
Okay. I don't know.
That's a super fan goodbye from Jack.
Okay.
Let's end this episode before
Yeah,
you
that's it.
offend
It's all
me anymore.
falling to pieces.
Goodbye.
I'm not an exorcist. I can't do this.
Look forward to all our other Shocktober episodes coming out in the future.
Ooh. Yes, Halloween. Ooh.
You can find the Now We Know Show podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. Keep up to date with everything ZWP on Facebook and Instagram, or visit the Zak Wylde Productions website at www.zakwyldeproductions.com. And remember to join us on Patreon or become a YouTube member for early access content and exclusive episodes.